Jazz hands magic.
Yeah. Now through the power of the internet. Maybe. We're live. Perfect.
We did it.
We finally made it, Reddit. Hello, everyone, and welcome to OWL by the Numbers. I am your host, Totally Drunk, and tonight on episode 8, it's bye week. We're gonna get you prepped in your leagues and unlimited leagues, let you know who to sit, who to start, do a quick rundown of what happened in Stage 1, Week 4, and let you know, maybe some of the players that haven't been pulling their weight here in the last week, and so much more. But before we can get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out with us live tonight on Twitch for our live show, and of course, to thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So tonight, as you can tell, we do have a full house. We have all 4 of our hosts on. First up, we have Blaze and Bob. Bob, how was your week been, my friend?
It's been great. Got to see a lot of good Overwatch. I've been super busy with my whole Al Recap YouTube project, but that's popping off and we're getting quite a few views, and I'm excited about it. And fantasy didn't go as well this week, although pick'ems, I'm pretty much at the top in every pick'em I'm in, but fantasy, it was kind of a rough week for me.
Absolutely, and congrats on hitting 100 subscribers, because I know you guys have been pumping out a lot of content. And if you guys aren't following or subscribed to, OWL Recap on YouTube, be sure to do that, because they've been putting a ton of video content out now that they have more feet on the ground at the arena on a weekly basis. Absolutely good stuff. Next up, we have my partner in crime in Fantasy Overwatch League, at least for the Fantasy Showdown. That is none other than Ramses. Ramses, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. This week was all right for fantasy. It seems I can only beat people in our podcast network who aren't named Ednar, because in our Foul Play Experts League with everybody from Foul Play, I am just struggling to keep up, man. I had several pickups just fall completely through on me.
Preaching to the choir. I'm still waiting on that elusive win.
And then in our Owl Network Host League, I'm still doing all right. Somehow, even though we have the same record, I guess just because alphabetically we have to throw him a bone, Ed's still ahead of me. Still 4-0. Eventually, we're going to clash together unless the schedule just randomly dictates it's not going to happen. But
well, I could fix that.
Oh, no, you don't have to if you don't want to. But yeah, the sun's back out here in California. I'm a happy guy. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And of course, as always, we have my co-host from Heroes Never Die, which, by the way, guys, we're going to be celebrating our 3rd year anniversary this week in just a couple of days. Woo! And just as a quick reminder, we are doing a giveaway. Be sure to check out our Twitter at H&D Overwatch. I'll plug it at the end of the show. But Ed, how has this past week been for you? And you keep getting the wins piled on, so congrats on the soon mention and, well, really just outright winning. So it was a pretty one-sided affair.
Here, we are the champions by Queen, and that is how I feel.
I'm not adding that in post.
Please add that in. So I wasn't on the show last week. So last week I beat Bob. This past week I beat Totem. I've beaten Ren like twice now. I beat Ramses. I think I've beaten you twice now. I don't know.
You played me one time, my friend.
Whatever. It's utter domination. Now, the league I'm in where me and Bob have a team, that was a bit sketchy, but it's because Soul benched both their tanks. And we have both their tanks. And then Soon got benched, and we have Soon. So you know what? That's just a crappy draw of the cards. But no, it's been a great fantasy week. I'm undefeated in 2 of the 3 leagues. Can't really complain.
Good for you. Woo, you did it. Yay.
I feel you should get me a crown, maybe a statue. Should I get a statue? Like an Oscar?
An Oscar.
My unlimited drafts have actually been going really good, and not quite as high as you, Totem. But I'm in 4. I'm top 10 in all of them, and one of them I'm in first place now for the Hanzo Spark Unlimited. I'm actually in first place. So, yay for that. My pick'ems, though, on the other hand, wah, wah. I think I'm actually dead last out of all the Overwatch League Network hosts. Now, granted, I'm like behind like 4 hosts by 1. And like they're behind.
So what you're saying
by, like, 2
is we're all losing to Bob in that regard. Is basically what you're saying.
What you're
I'm ahead of
saying
Bob
is
right now in
you
our
know players, but you don't know teams.
Exactly.
You and I need to work together.
Well, the thing is, we work together, and we have
clearly isn't working.
like we did work together, and that's how we ended up with 2 tanks from this old dynasty that got benched, and soon that got benched.
Oh,
That's how you
and
drafted Guri, by the way.
Just a heads up on a fantasy note. We had Adam from Action Esports on last night, and he seems to think that Michelle and possibly, Fisher and possibly Michelle too might be getting actually benched. That might not have been a troll. That might have been a trial.
Well, there was a lot of scrim talk, Bob, kind of going into the season about that possibility.
Yeah. And like you hear it all. I mean, the thing is Michelle hasn't been playing that bad.
Right.
That's the issue. Like, Michelle has not been a bad off tank. Actually, Michelle's been probably one of the better off tanks. It's just those 2 don't work together.
Yeah, it could just be synergy similar to what Philly did last year when Sato came in.
Now,
Absolutely.
The thing is who were they playing?
The D League team.
The D League team. Like, all right, you're going to have tryouts versus the D League.
That's F tier.
Like, can you really judge a tank duo off of that? Like, and this match coming up is too big for them. For them to screw with the tank lineup.
Right.
Now, granted, I could see them maybe doing it at start of stage 2. I can't see it this one because I don't know if they can throw the whole team into a frenzy and a loop when they have to win to have a chance at the playoffs.
I think the problem lies in. I think the problem lies in Fisher, dude. Like, it could be.
They haven't adapted.
Well, it could just be Fisher just can't get along. I mean, Fisher got benched in the stage 4 finals last year. Like, if he could get benched then he could get benched anytime. He didn't take himself out, dude. That was all PR. He got benched.
Not every team can adapt to Fisher's aggressive play style.
Oh, well, here, I got it. This will wrap this up. To quote a certain LA team, maybe Fisher was just too smart for the strats.
Like,
yep, I heard that.
Like, maybe
big brand.
Maybe Fisher gets traded. Like, Fisher's extremely skilled, but he needs to be in the right team that can be like, oh crap, he's going in. Like, we got to follow him. Like, and kind of revolve around that. Not, oh crap, he's going in. We're gonna still stand back. Like, I don't know. We'll see.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
We'll see.
But yeah.
We'll see this week.
Yeah. So be cautious when it comes to the Dynasty tanks at this point, just because we're still kind of waiting to see what happens. But with that being said, let's quickly recap what went down in Stage 1, Week 4, which did see, a couple less games just due to a later start on the first couple of days. So Ramsey, why don't you take it away? What did we see here in Stage 1, Week number 4?
Yes, sir. So the first game of the week was actually my personal game of the week. I thought this Atlanta and Gladiators game was going to be really good, going to be really close. And then LA just came out and stomped Atlanta. It wasn't even close at all. I mean, we saw them change lineups a couple times, subbing Kodak and Dogman back in and out. Same with Enlar and DeFran a little bit, which was curious. But at the end of the day, the LA Gladiators defeated the Atlanta Reign 4-0. The Philadelphia Fusion delivered loss number 6 to the LA Valiant 3-2. The Toronto Defiant defeated the Chengdu Hunters 3-1. Next day, Friday, the Vancouver Titans defeated the Paris Eternal 4-0. New York Excelsior defeated the San Francisco Shock 4-0. And the Dallas Fuel in their rematch against Shanghai actually beat Shanghai 4-0 this week.
Burn blue, baby.
Yeah, they got burned. Saturday, we had Houston defeating the LA Valiant. Thank goodness. 2-1 in what was probably the ugliest game of Overwatch I've ever seen at a professional level, unfortunately. Seoul Dynasty beat the Washington Justice 3-1. The LA Gladiators defeated the Guangzhou Charge 3-1. And the Toronto Defiant defeated the Hangzhou Spark 3-0. And then last day, Sunday, the San Francisco Shock defeated the Paris Eternal 3-1. Shanghai Dragons beat the London Spitfire 3-2. The Uprising defeated the Florida Mayhem 4-0. And the last game of the week, and probably was the best game of the week actually, was the Vancouver Titans beating the Chengdu Hunters 3-2. 5 maps. Super fun game. I really recommend going back and watching it if you missed it.
Yeah, that was a really crazy game because I felt like it was a combination of Titans just being like, nah, dog, you're not going to run 3-3 against us. And then Hunters, who have been running that triple quad EPS a lot, are just like, you know what? We can do this too.
Well, I feel it's like somebody found what if when Bumper gets aggro, we punish him for it?
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody finally came together with that strat and then it worked for 2 maps.
Well, I mean, they just kind of kept them on their heels, like
Yeah, the level of progression for sure.
Yeah, and why am I blanking on the Canada Vancouver Titans? Like they freaking changed their comp a bunch of times to try and change things up, and as soon as they started trying to play the Hunters game, the Hunters just were like, oh, 3-3 what? I mean, it's just like, wait a second, we didn't even know that they could do this. And it was the Hunters are definitely they're definitely going to get some fans out of all of this for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, when you have somebody named Bacon Jack on Bastion and the entire crowd is chanting bacon, 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 you're doing something right from a fan perspective. Like,
how hard is it really to get a crowd to just chant bacon over and over again?
Against Runaway.
I could do it anywhere.
Against Runaway.
But, I mean, come on. The double shield from both sides, Bastion worked.
Yeah.
What?
It did.
that should not have worked. But
Yeah,
they made it work.
What's crazy too is there were maps in that series that the Titans lost that, I mean, if you look at the stats dictated that the Titans should have won because Simonsu was just putting in some serious work. But
same with Haxel.
Yeah, they were looking really solid. But you know, it's interesting though because like we're so close to the playoffs here, and a series like that definitely exposes some holes in the Vancouver Titans game that maybe some of these teams going into the playoffs are going to look back at this series and be like, hey, they aren't doing so well against these heavy DPS compositions, so let's kind of put them through the ringer again, so to speak.
And there's a lot of teams that have those DPS options in droves.
Yeah, Choice in Twitch chat is asking, do you think Vancouver got cocky? To a degree, yeah. I felt like they just assumed that the Hunters were only going to run heavy DPS compositions. And it got to the point where when you look at that main tank battle, Bumper, in the Reinhardt v. Reinhardt specifically, Bumper was not winning the Rhine games. He was getting far less Earthshatter Suns. They weren't finalizing the kills when the Earthshatters that they did land. And it was almost like a 5-to-1 ratio in favor of Amon. So it was definitely something that threw them for a loop.
Well,
I'll
say that I wouldn't say they got cocky. I would say they got overconfident, because cocky is just something I would never use to describe the Titans.
I will note, though, that with Bumper, you know, everyone kind of knows what to expect with his aggression, and he keeps going for those flank shatters, and it's going to the well a little bit too many times.
Yeah, he got caught on Route 66 second point there, and I was just cracking up. But I want to ask Bumper about these things, but the Titans still don't have a translator.
Oof. Feels bad, man.
Yeesh.
So, all right, I'm going to ask you guys this, because I know, Bob, you have specifically talked about this. Paris. Overhyped massively or overhyped only a little? Because they were obviously overhyped coming into this week. And then they just get wrecked. Like 4-0'd by the Titans, 3-1 versus the Shock. Like, it was their week to show that they actually are worthwhile. And they failed.
Yeah, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I felt like this stage, the Shock and Paris both did not have a good strength of schedule. And Shock is kind of proven to be that team that isn't as good as the Titans or Newark Excelsior, but they are the clear better team against the rest of the pack. Whereas Paris, we've seen more of their game exposed, just for one, due to the Zarya play on the team, and that was why we saw Soon get stepping out, and it put Shadowburn in a rough spot just due to the fact that he was not facing easy teams, to say the least. But I felt like the team play aspect from the Shock has just outshadowed Paris. So I would say, yeah, we probably overhyped the Eternal a little bit too much, but it feels like at this point, a lot more teams have a better understanding of the meta. And it's finally kind of surpassed and really closed the gap that there was prior.
Yeah. I mean, one thing is, and I'll have to go back and watch, but like Shadowburn is, I said this before the season, Shadowburn is not a starting DPS for the Paris Eternal. And I think, yes, he got put in and replaced with Soon, but Shadowburn just did so much worse than Soon. Like,
I gotta stop you there, though. He only played DPS once. It was for like a few seconds. So, right. I mean, Zarya is not DPS,
but like, it's tracking.
It's
tracking.
It's so much more than just tracking. Tracking can definitely separate the Sinatras, but a good Zarya saves lives. Good Zaryas save lives. Ed.
Yeah, you need the bubble management, and if you need any further proof than that, just look at the LA Valiant.
I mean, the thing is with Shadowburn, and one other thing I want to go back and take a look at is he's notorious for really holding on to his ults.
Yes,
for way too long. Like when he's playing on Genji, he's a phenomenal Genji, and he'll get his blade 10 times faster than AKM, but then he'll hold it 10 times longer than AKM would.
Right.
But he does always get like a 4 to 5K with it.
He does, but it's just like
it's just too long. That's why EKO replaced him.
He could have gotten another 1 to 2 ults in between there. And with Zarya, it's one of those things where your biggest fight winner is going to be Grav. Like it's your fight winner for when you go into these team fights. Who gets the better grab? Who gets all of that? And if he's not using it properly, then he's just ineffective. And Totem, you said it earlier.
I disagree with you there because Defrayed throws away his grab constantly, but still gets great value from the bubbles. I think bubble management is the most important for Zarya in this meta. If Rein charges in, your Zen gets caught out, Rein's about to kill him, but you bubble Zen, and then you're able to kill the Rein because you bubbled Zen. Now, if you hadn't bubbled Zen, then the Rein would have got that pick. You would have had way less damage, 30% to be exact, and boom, the whole team would have jumped on it. So I think bubble management is the biggest thing.
I mean, it is huge, but what is the biggest team fight winner? It's the ultimates. Everything kind of comes down to the ultimates. True. And the biggest team kill or fight winner in that exact moment is going to be whoever uses their ults the best.
I thought the biggest team fight winner was just having Bumper throw first.
Hey, that's also a possibility.
But I mean, all the Zarya really has to do is make sure their grab doesn't get eaten. The actual harder job is the Brigitte job, where she has to get in and get the stun at the right time. And especially with the shield changes that happened a while back, she has to get around the Rhine and hope the Rhine doesn't spin in the right direction to stop her stun and then get back to shield the, oftentimes Diva Bomb. Although we did see this last week a bunch of Diva ults. Well, Diva ults used for zoning instead of used with the grab. So I thought that was interesting too.
Well, it's just the Diva Bomb is so Totem, you've talked about this. The Diva Bomb, when used with Zarya grab, has been so ineffective.
The Shatter Bomb combos have been doing a lot more work.
In theory, it's a great move, but so much has to go right for your team to hit the grab bomb. You need to either charge the Reinhardt or the Zenyatta, or you need to boot the Rhine at the exact right time or stun the Rhine at the exact right time. It's just so much has to happen for it. I can see why Diva Bomb, and that's why you're starting to see everyone thought that Divas would be in this meta would be top tier, top scores in every week, and really they're struggling to compete with Zenyatta's and Zarya's in fantasy points.
Yeah, because their biggest job, the best divas in the league at the moment, are the ones that basically eat the most grabs. I mean, eat the most ults.
Which has no fantasy value.
Yeah, Diva and Brigitte are comparable, honestly, in fantasy point wise. On the year, and a lot of that also has to do because you used to get all these kills and spray damage from Diva last season. That would get you more kills and stuff like that. But when you have shields up everywhere, you're not getting that random spray that's tagging someone and then they die. So I mean, it's interesting, but I don't know. It's
all right.
It's really interesting. Let's move on.
Reeling this back in. So we're entering the travel week for stage 1, week 5, last week before the playoffs, and we have bye weeks this week. So there are quite a few teams that aren't playing. So Bob, I want to throw this to you for this week's voucher report. How did you go about kind of working in your lineup this week? Did you go out and try to fill out an entire team in the sense that you needed to grab a couple free agent signings? Were you trying to balance it so you didn't hurt yourself in the long run? What did you do this week?
Well, to be quite honest, I have not done anything this week because we have extra time. I was like, wait, he's talking about this week. I thought you were talking about last week, but yeah, this week that's on the agenda for tomorrow.
I mean,
Bob.
I mean, it's definitely an interesting week. It all depends on what you're going to do. If you're going to do raw scoring, then you're just like, okay, get as many Atlanta Reign, Paris Eternal.
Let me hear it.
Even if it's Shadowburn?
and 2 Washington Justice players.
So Guido.
Might
be it.
Yeah, Guido, maybe Corey. Corey's been getting some decent DPS numbers, possibly. But, I mean, you need to get someone like them. But you also got to take into account the teams that are off. A lot of the best teams and the best players are off. So, I mean, you think of the top two of the top 4 scorers in fantasy this season are Violet and Sinatra. Both off. The New York Excelsior are off, so you don't have a Jonak. The Valiant, as crappy as a team they are, I mean, they still have a team that's pumping out good fantasy numbers. And Izayaki, Space is still putting out decent diva numbers. Kareev, Agilities isn't awful. These kind of teams are just not out there. I will say this: if you're looking for somebody, and I can say this now because I didn't want to say it beforehand because I was waiting for the waiver wires to come through. and I didn't want to. And I picked him up. By the way, Bob, I picked him up on our team. FYI, without telling you, Jinmu. Jinmu is hands down my number one pickup this week.
Yeah,
and look at a lot of the hunters are a good pickup this week.
Yeah, well, KO put up some pretty good stats last week too. His best was like 186.
It's not even this week. Like Jinmu, so DPS players be in the top 15 DPS players, and that's including all Zarya players. 99% of all Zarya players. You need to score above 150 points average per week.
Right.
That's Jinmu's above 150 points per week. So Jinmu, for the entire stage, has been a top 15 DPS when he's played. He's available in probably 90% of leagues. He was available in every league I'm in. And I'm like, I looked up his history. I went through each week. I'm like, his worst week was 140 or 138 points, I believe. So how could you not pick up Jinmu and start him? Because, I mean, everyone, you got to think, if you're in a 10-person league, the top 20 DPS in the league should be started at all times. If there's a top 15 DPS player out on the waiver wire in every one of your leagues, you pick him up and you start him. So, number one pickup, go pick up Jinmu, thank me later, start him.
Also, another thing to consider is if you're in a raw scoring format league, Washington and Paris both have weird matchups and both play twice. So that is something to consider going in. Also, another pick that people might not have, because we've talked about how divas don't get a lot of points. RCK is a diva who you might want to look at picking up. He goes about half and half, Sombra diva.
I feel like he gets more fantasy value from his Sombra play than he does diva, but his numbers have been pretty consistent basically throughout the season so far.
And he does get quite a few 3Ks, like quite a few.
I'd be willing to throw Elsa from Chengdu in there if you're really stretched for a diva player. Not as a tank 1, but as a tank 2. He's generally been breaking 130 points each week. I think his lowest was around 110 2 weeks ago. He seems to be the full-time starter there. So if you need somebody, if all the other good tanks are picked up, he's somebody who's playing this week, which I guess is the main thing right now. You need somebody to play this week.
It is. I mean, and you brought it up earlier, Totem. Guido. Yeah. Guido is definitely someone you should think about picking up, especially if you're in a raw league. Because, I mean, he's a Zenyatta player that's probably out there that's playing 2 matches this week. It's stupid not to pick him up and start him if you have the room.
Absolutely. So just as a quick reminder, and this is not going to affect every league, but commissioners did have the option to not score the bye week. So I would double check with your commissioners or just, whoever's, doing all that settings for your league to make sure, what the plan. We're scoring this week. I would have said otherwise. And this is just an added extra layer of depth to the strategy aspect of it. So just make sure if you guys are playing this week and actually tracking the scores, that you actually set your lineup, or just set it anyway, because who knows? Someone might change something last minute, but just keep that in mind. And this might be something that we will see moving forward from a league-to-league basis. So please keep that in mind. But Ed, let's go ahead and take a quick look back at some of the player performances that were definitely on the lower end of the spectrum. So looking back in Stage 1, Week 4, who are some of the players that did not put in the biggest numbers in regards to fantasy?
All right. Well, I'm going to start with Soon. Soon, 42.39 points. He didn't put up the numbers because he got benched for Shadowburn. Like, plain and simple.
Yeah, it changed from soon to soon.
Yeah. You'll see him soon. TM. So that is something. I mean, he's not droppable, obviously, but don't start him. Period.
Agreed.
He's not in our starting lineup, Bob. Throwing that out there, and he won't be. Another tough one. Edlayer from Atlanta had 19.49 points. He's a little tricky to actually see how well he does, because Atlanta always kind of does a funky lineup, and they do some weird changes, and you never know who's going to be on what and stuff like that. So Edlayer has never been a top tier player. I don't know if he's worthy of a roster spot though at this point. So if you do have him on your team,
he's going to be good in just a couple weeks though.
But we don't know that because we don't even know what the meta is going to be in a couple weeks. Like the meta in a couple weeks could still be goats.
Good.
Don't put that evil in the world, Ed.
But that's the thing. You don't know.
It could be roll queue too. Although now probably not stage 2, no way.
No, if roll queue comes to Overwatch League, it'd be stage 3.
If it even gets to Overwatch League.
If they put it in,
if it gets to ladder, Nate Nancer told me personally face to face. If it goes in ladder, it goes in Overwatch League. So you can take that to the bank.
And Nate Nancer now will officially never talk to Bob again. He's gonna be like, "I told you this, and you went on a podcast and told everyone about it."
No. People are very specific when talking to media about what to not say when they say something. It usually comes out, "Oh, dude, you're not going to say anything, right?" No, dude. But no, that's something that even Jeff talked about too. I just think it's funny that Nate told me personally is all.
Yeah. Move on. So we have 2 main tanks. I'll just go over them real quick. So Pokeball from Atlanta, 68.29 points, and then Gesture from London Spitfire had 79.43. Both did not perform up to par. The Gesture one is actually quite a bigger surprise, because it's not like he did 79.43 points in a regular 4-map set. Like, he had 5 maps, and he scored 79.43 points. Like,
he's not a good Reinhardt.
He's not a good Reinhardt, but still 79.43 for 5 maps as a main tank is bad.
Yeah.
Like, 79.43 for 4 maps is bad. This is even worse.
Yeah, we're used to seeing Reinhardt's putting in at least 100, even on the low end.
Yeah. And
I think that's just a testament to him dying first a whole lot. Spending a lot of time doing regroups, doing a lot of weird, things that took up a lot of time, like weird flanks all the way around. Like, those all take up a lot of time, and time is fantasy points, friend.
My favorite thing is how slowly, as this episode goes along, Ramses is slowly falling into the darkness.
it's slowly
The sun's coming for her. I agree, though. So Pokepo's a little bit more tricky, just because I think he's proven to be a very capable main tank, but if you need to cut him, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to cut him. Seems like he's very hot cold based on how well Atlanta does. He's not a player
that's true.
Get...
Like, Atlanta's had some rough games, so their fantasy numbers haven't been as stellar as they had been in those first couple of weeks.
I mean, the whole team was crap.
Mm-hmm.
They just
not
were.
good.
Like, there was one person on that team that scored over 100 points.
Was it Erster, my boy?
I'm pretty sure it was Erster.
Mm-hmm.
Had 100. DeFran had 93 points.
Oh, I know.
The thing with Gesture, the reason I don't think you should drop him is I'm willing to bet in almost every league, he was a round 1, round 2 pick for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, you're not dropping Gesture, period. You're not dropping him.
You
Because
put
might
too much
be able
capital.
to, if you're in trouble, you might be able to talk people into a trade, though.
Right.
Just, sell it as we're going to probably a more monkey-centric meta, whether you believe it or not, just sell it as that and get them to take Gesture, who was one of the best monkeys at the end of last season.
Yeah, you trade on name. A majority of bad trades are trades on name.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just how it works. I wish a PSA to everyone out there. There are no notifications if you get a trade offer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Check your trade tabs. Like I offered Ramses a trade.
And I didn't see it until a week later.
Later, he's like, "Sorry, I'm going to reject it." I'm like, "I offered you a trade," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I offered that to you last week, and I forgot about it." But like,
He loses tracks of trades like he does the bets that he places.
No, that's fair. I have one with Ramses for this stage. Raucous being a top 10.
I thought we did a full season. I have to go back and look at the tape. I have to go look at the tape to make sure because I'm not even sure because with scoring formats, I know it involves Raucous and top 10. That's about it.
And then me and Totem have one for the Spark Titans game.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, do I have one with you?
Sorry, I was.
Do I have a bet with you?
No,
Okay.
I don't bet. I had
not even skin for skin.
I've
That sounded bad.
I've had a few people, want to bet me, and I'm just like, nope, I don't bet.
All right. So I think I have only 2 bets, but somebody is going to tweet me and be like, "What about this bet?" Be like, crap on a cracker.
Well, okay,
Basically,
so do you
need a
know
bookkeeper.
why I don't bet?
Because you're a fuel fan.
No, because that's part of it. That's part of it. But last year, Drunken Monk, who used to do a podcast called Enter the Iris, tweeted me and said, "Hey, I bet you your profile picture for a week." So basically, if the Shock beat Dallas in their first meetup, I had to have a Shock emblem as my Twitter profile pic for an entire 7 days, or vice versa for him having Fuel. So yeah, you know how that story went. I had a San Francisco Shock photo in Twitter, and everybody that follows me on Twitter doesn't listen to all of my podcasts or doesn't, follow everything that happens on Twitter. So I got a million messages from people like, "Dude, you're changing. You're changing your team way too early." Oh, it was horrible, dude. I had to literally copy and paste the same response. I lost a bet, blah, 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 to dozens of people. It was not cool. So no, I don't bet.
That's an amazing bet. That's like the perfect bet ever. If Raucous doesn't make top 10, I'm going to make Ramses get a Dallas Fuel Reinhardt skin as an Outlaw fan.
Dude, it looks pretty dang good, man.
Yeah, he'll just be like a blue flash dying off the edge.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take in a look at the best player performances in a week. This has been a pretty interesting week. We had some pretty high totals across the board. But in regards to player of the week, for me, I'm completely biased. So I'm going to go with one of the Titans players because one of them has proven to be... I don't know if I'd still rank him higher than I still think Sinatra's probably outscoring him, but Seamin Su put up some monster numbers here in this last week in that Map 5 series, posting 223.79 points, which is fairly good number. And then combined, he was at 393.98 for the week. So again, Seamin Su and really just the Titans win a lot of team fights, really good cleanup. And yes, that was a very back and forth series, and that helped, add on a little bit more points for him. But, looking at the week, he was neck and neck with Sinatra, and Sinatra was only 0.3 behind him overall in the combined leagues for the raw score. And so it just comes to show those two are basically just been 1 and 2 with, some pretty notable names kind of lagging behind them at this point. But let's bring this over to Ed. Ed, who do you have for your player of the week this week?
I'm going to go with the person you referenced in Sinatra. He took fourth total points, so combined, and I think fourth as well in best individual. And he didn't need the help of a fifth map to do so. So, like, when you look at the top performers in each, you have Izayaki, Seaman Su, both had 5-set matches. The other person who was at the top is his teammate, which I'm sure somebody will say. But Sinatra has been a force. He's the top damage dealer. Like, he is the unsung MVP of Stage 1 fantasy-wise.
To add to your argument, even in the game that they got destroyed 0-4 by New York, he still out damaged Nene every single map.
Yep.
And like how he died a whole lot more and got a little bit less limbs than Nene, which matters in Overwatch League, but in fantasy, right, Sinatra was the better pick. You know what I mean? Like, you always have to remember that when thinking about fantasy is they don't have to be on a good team.
No, they don't. I mean, when you look at it, the number one player last week plays for the Valiant. Like, if that doesn't scream, you don't have to be on a good team to do good fantasy, that nothing will. But Sinatra is the star of fantasy for Stage 1 because he went undrafted in basically every league out there. And if you picked him up, you're winning your fantasy league probably because of it. It's like you look at the top two non-healers in Sinatra and Seo from the Titans. Neither one of them were drafted, really. So the top two damage dealers in fantasy-wise didn't even get drafted. That's how important picking up and listening to podcasts like this are. Is you learn about players like that, and you can pick them up, and then you win. I have Sinatra on the majority of my teams. I'm undefeated.
Sick brag.
And then in a couple of weeks, everything is going to change, and then no one's going to make heads or tails of anything. But Bob, I want to get your insight on who you have for your player of the week in Stage 1, week number 4.
Well, Totem, I'm going to go back in time, and we have a week again where Jonak is number 1. He had the best single performance of anybody in fantasy this week, and I think he is finally back to form. And even though I'm not an NYXL fan, I am a Jonak and Sabiobi fan, and Arc too. Big fan of Arc.
Well, maybe in the new meta we will see more of SBB, but for now it's been pretty light coverage across the board. So Ramsey, to wrap this up, who do you have for your player of the week?
I'm a little split because my heart wants to go with Izayaki because he's been
Jake.
We love Jake.
I love Jake.
Jake forever, guys. I heart Jake. No, my heart wants to go with Izayaki because he has been anchoring my fantasy teams and he's been top 5 almost every single week. Despite playing on one of the worst teams in the league, he is a monster for points. But I think we can't go throughout this segment without talking about Violet. Violet's come in the league. I don't even understand. Excuse me. I don't even understand why we had any sort of doubts as far as how he was going to mesh with the team or like what his point totals were going to be, because he's come in, he has just put up monster, ridiculous numbers. For combined, he had 406.89 points this week. And even then with a single game, he had 211.30. The guys come in, he is just a monster. You watch his view during games, and he's just getting damage the entire time. He definitely is going to make I think he's going to be what takes the shock to that next level. But even more importantly, for fantasy, he is just coming in and he's just an immediate all-star. If you drafted him, then you are very thankful that you slipped in and got him when you could.
Yeah, like Violet since he's played, has had one game under 200 points. Nobody else can say that. Like, Violet is everything he was chalked up to be and then some. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, if nobody had said Violet, I would have chimed in and been like, what are you doing?
Wait a second.
We do definitely apologize and have a moment of silence for the people that drafted Sleepy.
Rest in peace, Sleepy Draft.
Ain't never gonna play. Ain't never gonna play.
I mean, he was really good week 1.
Yeah, but now it's just like Aid. Stuck.
I mean,
yeah. Now he's stuck complaining on Twitch about how Zenyatas are only getting picked for their damage.
Now the thing is I will say this: I can 100% see Sleepy being traded in the offseason or between stage 1 and 2. I can.
Yeah, him or Aid. I mean, people looking to secure the Zenyatta position, very possible.
Yeah,
Aid's a main support, though. I mean,
yeah, he is.
That's what's more surprising. We thought he was going to get the start over Roki easily.
Yeah, but after teams have seen what he can do on Zen, I think that yeah. And then you have someone who could flop between the two roles too. I mean, Aid's. I mean, honestly, I don't know that they get rid of Aid because he's extremely useful if he can flop between those two things.
I mean, yeah, and every like backup that's super good, I'm like, how would they fill out on the LA Valiant? Like,
but okay, but
well, they trade for Aid. They could
they could use him as main.
They could use him as the main healer with Izayaki, and that would actually be pretty darn good. But then
we're not going to trade Custa for Aid, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's too smart to be on that team, though.
Yeah, that's why he's going to be hired as the new head coach.
But I mean, like in trades, I mean, you're probably still never going to see straight up main tank traded for main tank, off tank traded for off tank, main heal traded for main heal, which Aid would be a main heal traded for custom main heal. You're not going to see that.
Trades do you see? Like,
or even
not a ton, not a ton.
There's really only been one that's been significant.
Yeah, usually it's a trade for cash.
Like it's is like the only,
and that was a
trade.
Yeah, that was what Dallas. That was what Dallas wasn't sure. They had like Harry Hook trying out the Zen. They had Custa trying out the Zen. They had Chip Zayn trying out the Zen. They like didn't know where to play people on Mercy or Zen, and it was just a mess. But yeah, I don't see him trading Custa for that though.
All right, well, moving on, we do have some pretty big playoff implications in Stage 1, Week 5. So, Ramses, why don't you set the table? What are some of the matches that we're going to be doing this week in regards to highlight and pick'ems?
All right, so first notable match of the week, we have on Saturday, the London Spitfire versus the Seoul Dynasty. And I want to start off with my man, Bob. Bob, in this match, we have London, who is so hot and cold, either really great 3-3 or just absolute bottom 3-3, versus Seoul, who's also kind of a similar team in that regard, and who could even change their whole roster before they settle in, as we've heard from other rumors. So I want to get your prediction. What do you think right now for Seoul versus London on Saturday?
I think if Seoul plays their what people have quote unquote called B squad, Seoul wins. I think if Seoul plays Fisher, they lose.
We were talking about this off stream too. You're not a fan of how Fisher's playing right now. Too much. I think when we were asking about it, you think it's still not a meshing of play styles, correct?
I actually said that I don't think Fisher's getting along with the team. I think there's a power bout there, and I think Fisher's getting frustrated. I think that the problem is not play style, but team cohesion.
He's the Antonio Brown of the Overwatch League.
Yeah, that
giant diva.
Terrell Owens or
Michelle would be the giant diva.
I can't. It's like the quarterback that says I can't pass the ball and catch it. I don't know. That's just my personal feeling. There's no facts there. That's just my gut.
So if I had to ask you, I guess, who you predict to win this matchup, who do you got? We already said with B squad for Seoul, but if Seoul puts in that A squad, do you really think it's going to be that much of a change between that and the B squad?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I think Seoul puts in their lineup that they had been playing, and I think Washington Justice would have taken a map.
I'm not sure if I agree with you, but I get your point in this. I personally think London, just regardless of lineup, simply because Prophet seems to be, as much as he can, trying to carry that team on his back despite Gesture's fine play. Mm-hmm. I think that there's such a momentum and emotional team. I think, and especially with Seoul, I mean, we saw last year that London had Seoul's number almost every single game they played. London was just crushing Seoul every time, even though we thought they were pretty evenly matched. So I think it doesn't even matter A or B lineup to me. I think regardless, London takes that game.
Yeah, and that too was dating back to like the Apex days when you had
Apex the tournament, not Apex
yeah,
guys.
Yeah.
and that's another thing that I guess I didn't point out, but I just thought to myself. But London definitely knows Fisher. Because, for all the listeners that don't know, he played for them the start of last year.
Mm-hmm. I think for that game, it's going to come down to how Michelle plays. I think regardless of whoever is Michelle. And then I also think what they do with either Fitz or Munchkin. I don't think we're going to have a complete B team in, but I think we'll see at least one of those players come in. On to the next game, on the next Saturday game, Boston Uprising versus Dallas Fuel. Ed, I know of your hatred for Texas teams. What do you think for this week?
Like, honestly, this game is a coin flip. It really is. Because should Dallas be in the spot that they're in? No. I think they should be tied with the Boston Uprising at 3-3. Just because one of the worst C9s we've ever seen, Dallas is 4-2. So I consider
you
Dallas
cannot use that logic. A C9 is still a misplay in team play. It's one of the biggest misplays in team play. So you cannot base a C9 as they should have won. Are you kidding me? How many C9s
but
we
does
see?
That C9 from Shanghai make Dallas better than everyone? Because
Dallas
the other
didn't C9.
No, but
Dallas
this
was
time.
Let me just chime in really quick. So when you look back at it, just look at last week. Dallas came back. Okay, so for one, I followed Bob's advice of, I picked against Dallas because, he was mentioned in, they only win on Saturday and Sunday. That bit me in the ass. But besides the point, the fact that Dallas came out and won so convincingly just erased the C9 from my mind.
I think so, too.
Now, Bob, before Bob just interrupted me.
Corrected you.
Interrupted. There's a difference. As much as I am actually a big fan of Boston Uprising and what Fusions is bringing to the team, they're not going to win. They're not. They're playing. This is the away games. This is the home game weekend, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I losing my mind? Where are they playing?
No, you're losing your mind. That's next. Yeah, that's next stage. I just finalized media and all of that for that.
For some reason, I thought it was this weekend that they were doing the home series. Oh, and I'm still going to go with Dallas. It's one of those things where you have RCK coming off a big week next week. Closer really has started to come into his own on the main support, especially fantasy wise. He's kind of he's not one of the mandatory own main supports, but he's getting there. AKM has really shown that he's decent. Zachary is, as much as he hates it, is playing well.
Well,
but he
hates
it. He despises it.
Something you're not looking at, though, I don't think, is just, I don't know, maybe call it luck, maybe call it Arrow being a mastermind of what was going to be needed in stage 1, but having RCK be able to flop from Diva to Sombra so easy gives Dallas such an edge over other teams, and Boston doesn't have that. So that is a big edge. So depending on the maps, I forget what maps they're playing. What maps are they playing? Because I could tell you if there's Sombra maps for them.
Well, we know Boston hasn't done well against Sombra teams either.
Yeah, and if this is a heavy Sombra map pool, then the Dallas has an edge just because teams that have a Sombra that can play against GOATs is like an I win button against GOATs if played proper, are just adequate.
Mm-hmm. But I think the matchup actually to really be looking on, what I think is going to determine this game, is how many times Note is able to hunt down and crush Unko over the course of this game. Because we've seen that Unko has been doing
good
all
luck.
Right.
Unko's been one of the best Zens in fantasy.
He gets picked a lot, though.
Not even nearly as much as most. We should write Captain Planet on that because Unko's been killing it.
My whole thing is I've seen Note be every single week. It seems like his main job is to go find the Zen, kill the Zen, and then turn and take care of the rest of the team.
Eliminate target.
I don't know necessarily if you're going to have RCK on the Sombra half and half with a Diva, how well they're necessarily going to be able to protect Unko. So at least to go to the next game, at least, Ed, you picked Dallas for this game.
If I was to say one thing, if you were to pick a map to go game to go 3-2, I think this is the game.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a game that I could 100% see go 3-2 and go in either Boston or Dallas's favor.
Fusions wants it hardcore. I mean, he wants it hardcore. He was there at the last map when he was telling his team, we need to go 4-0, so we go +1. That's what we need for playoffs. So if they hadn't done that, then it would have been a different story with this game against Dallas, because it could have been more, Dallas's favor if Boston won. But Boston getting that 4-0 was huge, and Fusions knew that right off the bat and pumped his team up. I mean, Fusions, I'm a big fan.
He's going up, huh?
Like Carl.
Like Carl.
He's rising up, as you might say.
It's like he has balloons attached to him. Same jawline.
So, Ed, you have Dallas for this game. I'm going to go with Boston. I think it'll be a really good game regardless, though. I definitely see the 3-2. And Totem, on to the next game, our third Saturday game for Saturday, Atlanta Reign versus Chengdu Hunters. Now, last week, excuse me, my time gets mixed up. We have to see the birth of another Giga Chad, as apparently the term has been thrown around, with Ameng flexing his Reinhardt, even though he's normally a Wrecking Ball main player. So between Atlanta versus Chengdu, who do you got this week?
Jeff, if I know. Jeez, last week really threw me off. Okay. What I am most intrigued by in this matchup is you have basically two teams that are not running meta to the nth degree. You have Atlanta, who basically plays counter comps to the meta that don't allow you to play triple tank, triple support. And then you have the team that's running triple DPS more times than not. That is just eating so much value and just being able to finalize kills better than a 3-3 composition. So this is a really curious one. I feel like at the end of the day, Atlanta's probably going to take this, but I don't want to discredit the Hunters. I feel like the Hunters have really flourished lately, and especially last week too. We got to see them pick up quite a bit of momentum, and if they would have toppled the Titans, I feel like this might be a different discussion that we'd be having right now, but I think this one could definitely go the distance. But I'm going to give the nod to Atlanta just due to the fact that when it comes to running the 3-3. We just have seen more consistencies. And after how Amon did against Bumper, I don't expect Atlanta to kind of have the same mindset against the Hunters if and when we do get that mirror composition.
I do want to chime in. I know we're running a little long, but I want to chime in on this one particularly because I think Atlanta Reign has a huge advantage on the Hunters and their uncanny play style with picking team comps. So if there's one person you want to have on your team when the other team's playing weird, funky comps, it's Dafran. Dafran will be able to figure out what's going on, figure out what they need to do, and his uncanny ability to count ults is going to be huge because I guarantee you most of the people that are counting ults in this current meta are basically focused on just a handful of different characters rather than Dafran, I believe, knows every character.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think for this game, I think with how the playoff standings are, right now Atlanta has their position, but it's not locked. If they fall to what would it be if they lost? If they go 3-3 with this game, they could definitely their playoff spot could be threatened a little bit. I really think that after getting crushed by Gladiators last week, they decide they're going to lock it down. They're going to really just play hard, make sure that they secure their status this week. I think we're going to see an Atlanta win. Although it'll depend how many times Dogman feeds for the entire game.
Atlanta needs to win both to be for sure in. If they win both, they're in. That's just positive. So they control their own destiny, just like Dallas. If Dallas wins, they're in. So.
And our last matchup of the week, Bob, I want to hit you with this. Philadelphia Fusion versus Paris Eternal. Between these two teams, who do you have?
I have no bleeping idea, man. I mean, I really don't. Paris, I mean, I've got to give it to Fusion with just how confused Paris has looked, and there's got to be turmoil in the team with how poorly they have performed recently, and I don't know anyone that they could plug in on Zarya that's going to do. I mean, in Zarya, yes, she is enabled by the rest of her team, the Zen yada yada, but she's the main source of damage on the team, and if she's not alive to get that damage, then you're done. And Monty even said it on the broadcast the other day, teams only win something like 5% of the time if there's Zarya.
A little bit.
It has improved a little bit, but I mean, basically, if you lose your Zarya or your Reinhardt, you're in deep trouble.
60% of the time, it works every time.
I do quickly want to note that there is something that we haven't seen Eternal try, which they can pull from the well, because they do have Nico on this roster that has done a lot of off-taken on past teams. And Finzi has played Zarya, so I would not be surprised if we see Nico move to D.Va and Finzi maybe taking the reign of the Zarya play. That's pretty much the last-ditch effort for Eternal at that point, but it's a look that we haven't seen yet, so
good point.
Might be something to consider.
I think Carpe is the kind of guy who smells blood in the water, and he knows that when he has a superior matchup, he goes all in and just crushes whatever he's facing. I don't see how... I mean, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx them, but I really think Philly's got this game. Unless something completely changes, I really think Philly's got it. I've been known to be wrong before, though, so we'll see.
Well, who knows? If they just decide to play Winston 3-3, could easily get exposed. Who knows? It's just a weird thing of momentum, though. Eternal has just kind of been on a down low, and Fusion have been winning, but they haven't necessarily been the most impressive wins, so to speak.
Well, let's just be frank. Their goats is trash.
They're 4-2 right now, though. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. 4-2.
Did you not get my reference there?
Oh yes, for sure. Blessed be Jane's name. But I'm pretty
Praise
sure
him.
their playoff spot is maybe not locked, but decently secure. We've been joking about it for a couple of weeks. I could see them starting Fraggy. It's not going to happen. We all know it isn't. But I could see them throwing in Fraggy for a map.
Hashtag free Fraggy as opposed to Monty's Putin Fraggy.
Not in my lifetime. Are they going to unleash Fraggy in this?
I
meta?
mean, it was well. We can't say free Mendo anymore.
Dude, Bumper is allowed to roam free. Why can't Fraggy?
Bumper's better.
Oh, come on, dude. Bumper's the same.
Bumper's better than Fraggy.
Well, I mean, I think for Fusion, it's more the fact that, okay, if you look at the Titans, they pump a lot of resources into Bumper, and a lot of Fusion is built around Carpe. I feel like that's probably what the bottom line is in regards to why Fraggy just isn't seen the play.
Mm.
At the end of the stage last year, they were built around EQO. Like EQO got the majority of the resources during team fights, and Carpe was basically just off on his own getting picks, and that was the way the team worked.
At the end of the season last year, the Valiant and were in like in the championship game, and the Spitfire won everything. So
this is why having players that can play a lot of different roles is big time.
All right, so getting back on shift here, because I know we are running long. So, we've started to look at more of the unlimited drafts week to week now, and this week is definitely interesting just due to the fact that we have quite a few teams, 7 in fact, that have a bye week. So, Bob, why don't you set the table? Who are you looking at placing in regards to your unlimited leagues?
Definitely Unco. Oh, shoot. It's kind of tough. Definitely Unco and Boom for the off or the support. What about you, Ramses, for tanks or DPS?
I'm still a little stuck just because at this point there's not a lot of people playing, and even then, like, I don't know. I personally, if I had to pick anybody, I would say Finzi from Paris, especially because he's playing 2 games. I mean, that's really what a lot of people are going to do this week. They're going to base their rosters around Atlanta and Paris with maybe like 1 or 2 Washington people. Possibly.
It's
Unlimited
still
is not raw. So it doesn't matter if they play 2 games. It's best. Like, yeah, you could play Finzi and have better. But it's still just best of, not raw. So everyone doesn't have. Otherwise, Guido would be like #1 support player.
That explains so many things in my life now, Ed. Okay,
that's why you're losing to me
and me.
Oh, my life has changed.
Yeah,
but yeah, okay.
If you're gonna, I was just gonna say, if you're gonna go with tanks, I would definitely go with Bumper and RCK. What about DPS, Ed?
I mean, all right, I'm going to say Bumper. I take the other tank on the Titans and
Janu
over Bumper.
I just like Bumper. Leave me alone.
I mean, I like Bumper too.
I mean, I do too. I have a jersey.
For DPS, I'm going Carpe.
Carpe.
And Suiminsu. Like,
yeah,
no
Ed and I are in the same mind.
Yeah.
I would go Simitsu and Defran, just because Defran has 2 chances to pop off. Pop it off, dude.
But you don't know if he's going to play. Like, I would say Defran, but you don't know if he's going to be playing every map.
But he has 2 chances.
Maybe
not. Yeah, maybe
Ed,
not do it in Raw.
But Ed, Defran plays against Houston.
So?
The potential for high scores is right there.
No. Potential for high scoring. Paris plays the Washington Justice and Mayhem play the Washington Justice. Potential for high scoring is way better with those teams.
Well, I mean, to be
with
fair,
yes.
When you face the Justice, that's just like keeling over. So you're not actually going to be doing a lot of damage because they're going to die so quickly.
Yeah.
There's just going to be a less amount of team fights overall, ergo less fantasy points.
Good word. Good use of ergo. And the other ones I would choose. I'm just going to throw this out there real quick before we move on to somebody else. Aim God and Shu.
Yeah.
I have Aim God and Shu and Boombox as my 3 supports coming into this week.
Twilight also an option as well.
You could put an Uncle. I'm on the Shu train.
Shoo.
What you did there. As for my team, the only spot that I'm kind of undecided on is the second tank. But from top to bottom, I have Boombox as my captain with supports Aim God and Shu. For offense, I put Carpe, Seaman Sue, Janu starting take 1, and right now I have Note slated for take number 2. That's the one I'm kind of uncertain on, just because he's been averaging like probably 135, 140 points, which isn't terrible, but the D.Va players have just kind of been hit or miss from week to week, so it's really hard to kind of see like the stock value on a week-to-week basis on certain players.
RCK.
That was the other person I was looking at. It's just a matter of I gotta look at the averages and see where it lands. But Ed, you and I mean, that explains why we're so close in a lot of these unlimited leagues, because we're basically starting very similar lineups.
I mean, you just got to pick the best players available. Like RCK is not a bad option. It's just RCK had a monster week last week. He doesn't have the consistency from week to week fantasy point wise. But he's probably up there, and like the top 3-4 to consider for the tank. It's another DPS to consider is Prophet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been good Zarya, like good person to throw in there. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting this week to see how everything goes. And I mean, like, if Ramses is picking, I mean, I'm surprised you haven't picked the payload as your main support, because the payload heals. But the people you
That is a very good point. That was a good one, Ed. I'm going to remember that one for a while.
Payload's consistent every week. Super great healing. All right, I think count on payload.
It's like, do I pick the payload or Raucus? I'm going payload.
You know what?
Raucus has been doing all right.
Okay, for anybody new to kind of watching Overwatch or playing, Ednar's not kidding. The payload actually does heal you. We are not joking with you. This is not a debate. It really does heal you.
It also pushes you away if you're Yunjin.
Yes.
Jeez.
Oh. So cool.
All right. Well, with that being said, guys, I know we are running long, so let's close out the show for tonight. So if you guys want to help us out, one of the best ways to do that is to go leave us a review over on iTunes. We're always looking for constructive criticism on how to make for a better listening experience for you guys. And I do know we have a new written review, so let me just pull this up, and it is from our good friend Shazir, who is one of the patrons for OWL Recap.
Yeah, Shaz is awesome.
Shaz says, as a complete noob, this has been a great way to learn and follow the fantasy sports concepts. Add my love of Overwatch, and this is a great listen. Again, that is a 5-star review. So, Shazir, thank you so much for that.
Thanks,
if you're looking, if you're looking for additional content, well, we do have something out there for you where you can find a ton of stuff. So, Bob, why don't you go ahead and plug Overwatch Recall?
Overwatch Recall is your one-stop shop for everything Overwatch in the podcasting atmosphere. You can find weekly listings of everything Overwatch, Path to Pro, Overwatch League, whatever you can think that has Overwatch in it. You can find that on our website at owlnshow.com/OW Recall. Oh, yeah, and follow us on Twitter, too, at OW Recall.
Yeah, and just as a quick note, we did have a new interview posted this week with Snowy from the Weekly Uprising, which is a Boston Uprising specific podcast, so check that out. I know he also interviewed me for his podcast, so that was an interesting theme, kind of having the role reverse, like right after I was moderating an interview. But outside of that, we have a number of different ways how our listeners can get a hold of us. Ramses, why don't you go ahead and let them know how they can do that?
All right. So if you have any questions and prefer long form communication with anybody here on the network, you can contact us at our email at contact@owlnshow.com. You can find us on Twitter at owlbythenumbers, which we're putting a lot on that Twitter. So please, if you have a sec, throw us a follow. Our website for the whole network, of course, is owlnshow.com. Our YouTube, of course, at youtube.com/C/Overwatch League Network. I know Spider and Slambo are always putting up some really good ranking content and other stuff up there. Our Discord, of course, if you aren't already a member, is discord.me/owlnshow. And of course, our Twitch, which you are currently, unless you're an audio listener, watching us live right now, is twitch.tv/owlnshow. We are a Twitch affiliate, in case you didn't know. So help support us, of course, by subscribing to the channel, and you can earn our network emoticon. We stream pretty regularly. We, of course, have Overwatch League Network on Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific time, which is our Overwatch League recap podcast. Not our Owl recap podcast, I should probably say. Our Overwatch League Oh, man. I am so bad with words tonight. All right. Number 2, of course, Owl by the Numbers, which you hopefully know since you're listening to it or watching it right now, airs Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Our general and variety Overwatch podcast, Heroes Never Die, airs Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time, where you can watch Ed and Totem talk about goats for 3 hours.
2.5.
2.5, excuse me.
Okay. I do want to say, sorry, because I listened to it right before, but the Heroes Never Die, when you were talking about the big heads-up play by Atlanta over the top of the building, doing the graviton, and you're like, it's kind of like running into a door, I think you said, or like running into a wall or running into a glass door or something like that. He was like, you just don't do it again. And it made me think, I was like, yeah, every time I've run into a glass door, it's been at least 10 years since I did it again.
It's like, it's one of those things, you pull it off once and you don't pull it off again because people expect it. It's like the Great Bamboozle.
Sorry, I should have saved that for after the show. My bad.
Now that doesn't necessarily translate to when it comes to pushing or pulling on doors, because that seems to be one that gets people more frequently.
School for the gifted.
I've totally been trying to push that old door open. Yeah, no, just
To keep on with the contact
we're just trying to throw you off, Ramses. We're just like, hey, Ramses, let's make bases. Jazz hands. Distraction.
I mean, but Ed, if you keep interrupting me, how are we going to learn? How are our listeners going to learn about our Patreon that they can find at patreon.com/Owl Network? Because over on our Patreon, we have new content up all the time. I know our tiers start as low as $1 a month, and we're always putting out stuff. And any money you can throw in really helps. It helps grease the wheels of running a podcast network and putting up shows all the time, every time. So please, if you have a couple bucks you want to throw, or you just feel sympathetic for some Overwatch boys, then throw us some cash on Patreon, please.
For just $1 a month, you can make a difference in this Totem's life. Dang it, I messed that up.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped us launch a new podcast, which is Hack the Planet and Overwatch Contenders Podcast, which is now available on iTunes. Be sure to subscribe there. So, the waiting period is always the worst part.
Because the first episode is just so out of all right, this all happened a week and a half ago. It's a little outdated, but it's iTunes.
It's good to go check them out.
You should be pretty quick on because I know Ja, every time he adds one, it gets in a day or two. Really? Do you add it on the same account, or do you make a new account?
In regards to what? On
in
iTunes?
In regards to your iTunes.
Well, it's all on our provider page.
Huh, weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
They're just making sure I'm not on it swearing.
Yeah, that's what
we gotta keep an eye out for that Ed a-hole.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to drop an F-bomb from time to time.
Yep. So, just as a reminder, guys, Heroes Never Die celebrating 3rd year anniversary, and we are doing a giveaway. We're giving away 3 bundles of the 400 Overwatch League tokens. More details can be found on Twitter at HND Overwatch. All you do, follow, retweet, and you'll be entered in the giveaway unless you are Edinar, because he is.
Yeah, no, this is crap.
Not it.
How come hosts are not eligible to win their own prizes? I've
See,
always found that rule kind of stupid.
Okay, Ed, you want to know the real
it's
reason?
what everybody has done since the beginning of time.
Well, who
That's
says
true.
it's the right thing to do?
And I'm not just
Yeah,
going
one's
to...
got a
True. You're using my own argument I've had for years.
See,
Just because
Ed-
this is what everybody does not mean it's the right way.
Exactly.
Ed,
I
I'm
just
just-
thought that Ed was winning enough as is, so I wanted to exclude him from something.
So, I mean, all I do is win, 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 no matter what.
Is that a song by last year's halftime performer DJ Khaled?
Yeah, he was singing about me.
Overwatch yourself.
He's like, this goes out to my boy Ednar. One more time.
Another one.
Another one. And then the weird little step dance thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If that's what that was, I don't know.
It
But
was.
anyways, guys, we're heading out for the night. Thank you so
Biggest
much.
train wreck of an ending ever.
We can't help it. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of OWL by the Numbers. Again, it's been episode number 8. I'm your host, Simply Junk, joined by Blaze and Bob, Ramses, and Edinar. And we will see you guys back tomorrow night for the next episode. Yeah.
Hey, Totem, what's your social media profile really quick?
Good save. Good save.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we should probably do that too. Because, you know, where else can you yell at Edinar outside of YouTube comments? You can find me on Twitter at SimplyDrunkCTR.
You can find me on Twitter at Edinar Overwatch, and then yell at me on iTunes reviews too. It doesn't have to just be YouTube comments.
Bob, where can they find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. Everything I do is there.
And you can find me at Ramses_OW on Twitter.
All right. Well, Ramses may have been able to save that, but he can't save us from actually ending this episode. Guys, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, sweetheart. Well, Ed's got